video for you guys right now about how to stretch a canvas. It's a video that I have been wanting to make for a long time, meaning a couple of months, and I've definitely been procrastinating. So a lot of people ask me how I make big paintings, or do I buy the canvas? Do I stretch them myself? Well, the answer is yes, I do stretch them myself. The reason I do this is because typically my work is larger scale than the biggest canvas available at the art store. Also, those big canvases can get kind of expensive, so this is kind of a budget-friendly method of stretching a canvas. Now, I will also tell you that this is not everyone's method of stretching a canvas. I've certainly known other artists that have a multi-step, very complicated process. It has a great end result, you guys, but let's face it, I'm not the most skilled woodworker in the world, and this is the method that I use that I think is really budget friendly. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you learned something. If you have some suggestions on possibly better ways that I could even build my stretchers, go for it in the comments. That would be great. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so first thing is first. When you are painting on a raw canvas, say you do it this way. Say you wanted to start your painting on a raw canvas, stapled to the wall, like so. That's what I do. And then you finish your painting and then you're ready to stretch it. So I'm going to show you a step-by-step process on how I do that. I will say that I filmed the footage of me cutting the wood a couple of months ago, and I don't know where it is. It's lost. So sorry I don't have really fun footage of me cutting wood. So use your imagination. Alright? So I've got a diagram to show you guys to try and help explain this. I'll put a little screenshot of this in the video so you can freeze frame it if you want. It's not the best drawing, but here's my diagram. Alright. So the canvas that I'll be stretching in the video today, the actual finished size of the painting is 63 by 48 inches. All right, that's the final dimension of the painting. So when you are stapling your canvas to the wall and when you're working on that painting, you definitely don't want to paint all the way up to the edge. So try and leave at least 2.5 to 3 inches on all sides of your painting. You can even draw a box around it to remind yourself. But the reason you want to do that is because you're going to want the canvas to wrap around the piece of wood, right? Yep. Okay. So, another thing to note is that when you're making your canvas, when you're making the cuts on your wood, you want the top and the bottom parts to be the longest parts. Okay, are you following me? And you see how the inside one is going to be a little bit shorter. So you're not making a cut that is 63 inches because you have to account for that, whatever it is, 0.75 inches worth of wood. This piece and this piece to be longer is because that's where you're going to be hanging your painting. Say this is a portrait-oriented painting, right? If it was a landscape painting like this, you would want this piece and this piece to be the longest. The reason is when you hang it on the wall with screws or whatever you're hanging it with, that's going to be pulling the weight, okay? So it's going to have a lot better structural integrity if you make that piece the longest, all right? So, into the fun part, the math part, the part that I'm not the biggest fan of because I'm not very good at math. So if you're good at math, I am jealous of you. That's awesome. But I'm going to try my best to explain this without sounding completely ridiculous, okay? So, like I said, you're going to keep the top and the bottom at 48 because that is the ultimate finished size of the canvas that we want to do. But then, say I want the height of my painting to be 63 inches, right? So, because you're taking into consideration this 0.75 inches here, right? you're going to want to subtract that from either side of your height piece. Okay? So 0.75 times 2, because you've got two sides, 1 and 2. 0.75 times 2 is 1.5 inches, okay? So you're going to want to subtract 1.5 inches from the final dimension of your painting, the 63, okay? So for the length piece of wood, you're going to want to cut that piece of wood on the chop saw to be 61.5 inches. Does that make sense? Because when you put it all together, you know, when you screw everything together, then that height is actually going to be the height that you wanted to begin with in the first place, which is 63 inches, okay? That's about as hard as it gets. That's about the most difficult thing to do, and for those of you that are good at math, it'll be a breeze, trust me. All right, so similarly, you guys know what I mean. You're going to want to do the same thing for the inside pieces as well. So these inside pieces help with structural integrity. Same thing, you're going to want to subtract that 1.5 inches, right? Because this is 3/4 of an inch, this is 75, right? So you're going to want to subtract that 1.5 from your inside vertical and your inside horizontal. Final piece will be that 63 inches that you want it to be, okay? Same thing with this one, 46.5, you know that's 1.5 subtracted from 48. That's where you get that number. And that's about it. Oh, and then you want to know what these cross beams are. These are also for structural integrity. I've seen people cut triangles out of plywood and just use that. But if you don't want to do that, this is what I usually do. I usually just cut pieces like this, okay? You're going to just want to cut it at a 45 degree angle. And then that's going to go in the corners of your painting like that on either side. You're just going to screw those in. And if you're wondering how long I do make this, it's about 12 inches. So you can do whatever, you know, length you prefer, but I just make these 12 inches. All right, so that's the math part. Now we're gonna get down to some footage of me actually stretching. Like I said, there's not any footage of me cutting any wood because, well, I lost it. I don't know where it went. But you're gonna cut it with a chop saw. That's what I use, at least. Make sure you are practicing safety. Make sure you're wearing goggles and you're being very mindful of your fingers, and just be really, really careful with. I also wanted to quickly mention the materials that we will be using today. Other than wood, which you can buy at, you know, any home improvement store or lumber yard or wherever you go for things like that, you're going to want to check it and make sure that it's not warped. So what I like to do is just grab it, look down the center of it, make sure there's no bends or anything weird. Just make sure it's a straight piece of wood when you buy it. So you're going to do that. Other than that, and needing access to a chop saw or having a chop saw of your own, you'll need a drill, a staple gun, some staples, some canvas pliers, which you can get at pretty much any art store, and then of course some screws. Alright, so once you've made all the cuts in your wood and you're ready to assemble everything, an important thing to note is when you're attaching your cross pieces to your outside pieces, you're going to want to make sure that you're not attaching it so that the canvas is rubbing up against this piece. Make sure you don't do that. You may be asking me, well, Sarah, this part is rubbing up against the canvas. Now, there is an advanced method of making a cut on a separate piece of wood at a 45 degree angle and then attaching that piece of wood to this piece of wood. That is a more complicated, a little more advanced version of stretching a canvas. I'm not going to go into that process today because I personally find it a little overwhelming. So I'm just going to point out to you guys, you know, at the very least, make sure this piece of wood, the cross sections, are not touching your canvas and rubbing up against it. If you did want to make the cut on that additional piece of wood and attach it to this one, that 45-degree angle will prevent the canvas from completely touching this piece of wood, but like I said, I'm not going into that method today. If you guys are interested in a video on how to do that, let me know in the comments, but you know, for now, just make sure your cross beams do not touch the canvas. Alright? Oh, and then when you put it together with the drill, I just make two screw inserts, one here and one here, and then you're done. Just put everything together like it's a puzzle. Alright, well that wraps up the video on how to stretch a canvas. I hope you guys found, at least part of that video a little bit helpful. So if you have any suggestions for future videos, or if you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comment box below. And then if you liked what you saw, make sure to click like or subscribe, and I look forward to bringing you guys the next video. Have a great day. Bye!